Okay, I think we can start it. Good morning, or better say good afternoon. My name is Andrej Abramic, Maritime Affairs Data and Analytics. I would like to welcome you on Technical Expert Group on Data for MSP Webinar Series with the title Navigating MSP Tools, the new TEG Webinar Series. The idea of this webinar series is what we see within the last months, that Technical Expert Group members are working on the number of the tools that can actually support the MSP process. And we see that it would be quite interesting that present them, that you can actually use it in your work. So we are starting with the 10 tools developed within the ARIMA, but also within this series organization, we see that there are other tools that would like to be presented. We're going to present one tool per month, how it's going to be this webinar series. And this is going to be till the summer. And then after summer, we are going to reinitiate this webinar series. So idea is to have 1 hour format. You can stop to work for 1 hour, not for whole afternoon or whole morning. You can see the application of the tool, see the methodology, how tool is applied, what data is needed. And also, if possible, if tool permits, we are going to do a short hands-on series. So the next month, we are going to have a quite interesting tool. It's a tool that deals with the governance. It's developed by Marta Ballesteros from SETMAR, and she's also working in Instituto Español de Escenografía. And we are going to have a more dedicated, more technical tool which used for exploration of the MONET harmonized MSP plans through the MSP out remap tool. But today we are going to have a socioeconomic tool, and this title of this webinar is From Blue Economy to Blue Planning, Integrating Socioeconomic Values in MSP. This tool is going to be presented by Jose Luis Santiago, who is a co-chair of the Technical Expert Group, but also he's leading a number of the works with the Technical Expert Group, like the development of the symbology for the European MSP data layer, SLD. Also, he is the man behind the team who is harmonizing the European Maritime Spatial Plans, and which are hosted on the MONET. And also, he's leading Socioeconomical Group. So I would like to leave the floor to Jose and to present the tool and to start this webinar.
Thank you, Andrej. Too many hats, I guess. Good morning, and thank you so much for the opportunity to present this work. I'm Jose Santiago, works head of the Socioeconomic department in SETMAR, and today I will talk about one of my favorite background topics, which is the socioeconomy of oceans and the seas. Particularly, I want to present this model that we developed during the last 3 years in the frame of the REMAP project. So as a starting point, the starting point does not define the destination, but it shapes the path. And this is particularly relevant when we talk about socioeconomic in MSP. MSP and socioeconomic MSP is a tool that shares visions on marine areas, and definitely human dimension and socioeconomic dimension should be included in that vision, because this type of information plays a key role in the planning of the marine space. It supports the development, the monitoring, and the assessment of the plans, and helps to demonstrate the benefit of planning and ultimately how the plans contributes to achieve the sustainable development goals. So it's important also that a socioeconomic dimension helps to build on public trust and acceptance of the planning. In the frame of the TEG, there are a subgroup which is working with socioeconomic dimension. A few years ago, we published this guideline on how to integrate the socioeconomic into the evaluation of the plans, and we propose some recommendations, expressed some challenges, and developed some findings according to this topic. Nowadays, this group is still ongoing. So if you are interested, you are more than welcome to take part on this. And the idea is to create a community of practice, informal community of practice for social researchers on MSP. One of the first tasks that we developed in this group was to review the literature about the status of economic or socioeconomic analysis, which are carried out and writing down in academic literature. We start to analyze more than 2,000 papers through a systematic literature review. And we found 75 articles dealing with this topic. Our review shows that there is a growing body of work, but also important gaps. The typology of these studies is mainly descriptive, and the applied experiments are mainly through case studies and which know many quantitative approaches. These papers can be grouped according to these steps that I think that all of you are familiar with this. And for socioeconomic, we can remark the step of analyzing the existing conditions as the most relevant, but not well integrated in the preparation or in the adapting phase, which is nowadays one of the key phases that we are dealing in the MSP directive. So this highlights also the need for more harmonized and spatially explicit approaches to address the socioeconomic dimension. Also, in the frame of the TEG, we carry out a survey among member states to know better the variables that they are using for MSP, in socioeconomic terms, of course. And they focus on GVA, on gross value added, on employment, and the production value of the different activities involved in the plans. But with a perspective, or with a short-term perspective, because half of the countries that answered this survey declares that the socioeconomic data are available just for from 1 to 3 years. In addition, other lack that we identify is the lack of tools which are visualizing this topic. So 3 years ago, in the REMAP project, we tried to solve a part of other topics that we will present, as Andre explained perfect before, the socioeconomic issue by developing some tools, some modules to be applicable in different contexts, in a regional context, but also in a more local context, trying to integrate this approach in that cases. I don't know if you have any ideas or any question. If not, I will go just into the details, into the nitty-gritty of the matter. Because under the idea that the spatial information is essential for understanding and addressing societal challenges, how do we spatialize the blue economy data or the socioeconomic information? That's the idea that guides our module. We aim to unlock the geography of this blue economy by integrating two components, the geographical information and the socioeconomic data. However, there are still a gap between both. And bringing this gap is one of the main challenges of the REMAP project. In REMAP, we talk about socioeconomic in the context of MSP. However, socioeconomic is a very big concept that should be well defined when we address the study. In the REMAP project, we measure socioeconomic or try to measure socioeconomic in economic and social terms, being concrete with three core indicators: the value of production, the gross value added, and employment. And it's relevant that this is not only a snapshot. We try to incorporate trends over time, integrating past trends to provide update and consistent estimations, ensuring that planning decisions are based on dynamic and not outdated information. One key core point for REMAP is a data-driven project. So we rely on harmonized data when possible, if possible, and in order to be able to compare the results across member states and across sea basins. And it's crucial that this information is not only economic, it's also spatial. And we allocate value geographically to understand not only how much the value is generated, but where it is generated. One of the issues with socioeconomic data is the data availability and consistency. In REMAP, we work with the approach that the definition and quantification of the blue economy can be followed through the European Blue Economy Observatory. And then we narrow this idea, this concept, towards the MSP defined by each of the member states. The European Blue Economy Observatory provides harmonized statistical backbone for understanding the economic performance of the blue economy across member states. What we are doing is not creating an alternative system, we are building on that foundation. So we use the same sectorial logic, the same NACE classification, and the same official statistical sources. However, the approach is valid to use to other data in other places. One of the first questions that we did when we carry out this type of analysis is which year we should use. Socioeconomic data is not always available for the same year across sectors or countries. Some data sets have 2 or 3 years delay. Others are updated more frequently. However, for planning purposes, we need consistency. We cannot compare sectors based on different reference years. That's why we aim to produce at least one coherent and comparable value per sector, representing the most recent and reliable estimation possible. To achieve this, we rely on time series methods that allow us to update values based on past trends, ensuring that we are providing harmonized reference years across all the sectors, instead of simply selecting an historical year and we generate an update. How we get the number? Well, I promise to Andre not put any equation here, but just mention the methods that we are using. So we estimate the value according to the trends and the seasonality of the time series series of each of the activities and each of the regions, countries, and analyze it. These methods are widely used because they are simple to apply. They are very good for short-term forecasting or very short-term forecasting and can be automatized. If we are developing a graphical abstract of the approach, this could be one of them. If we pick one c-square and we have some values in time, well, in this sense we have monthly data, we are able to estimate this, in this case, hours of vessels in this area, following this approach. However, we still need economic data to mix with this geographical data. So we estimate the use of value of the sea in terms of GVA and employment, as I mentioned, and we gather all the data from the Blue Economy Observatory. Which data? Well, we focus on NAICS codes. NAICS codes are those codes that represent the human activity developed in one economy in a harmonized way for the whole Europe. There you can find the different NAICS codes, but in the observatory you can follow up all the Blue Economy activities with 4 digits disaggregation. In order to make the sectors comparable within the MSP, we generate a single, coherent, and value for gross value added and employment, expressed in full-time equivalents. As you know, GVA is calculated as output minus intermediate consumption. Intermediate consumptions can be all the cost, all the expenditures required to produce, to generate the output. We produce one harmonized value per sector based on these past trends, again, using ETS and ARIMA models. And we do this not only at national level, but per sub-area, using the spatial grids, such as 1 kilometer square, 5 kilometer square, according to the different available information. For the spatial allocation, we apply a linear distribution approach. In other words, we within each defined sub-area, we assume isotropic conditions, meaning that the value is distributed evenly unless we have no more detailed spatial evidence. This gives us consistency, transparency, and scalability across sea basins. We call these methods as a probability-weighted allocation of the economic value based on the location of the activity. So we combine geographic and economic data instead of assuming an uniform distribution. This means that the economic value is distributed across space according to the likelihood or intensity of the activity occurring in each location. For example, in fisheries, the allocation can be based on the fishing effort density. For maritime transport, it can be linked to the shipping traffic or the port activity. So rather than spreading value evenly, we anchor it to real spatial evidence. And this is what you see here is this graphical example on how the simulation works in practice. We have the geographical information. In this case is the hours of shipping vessels. And we also have the GVA for maritime transport. So we relate both values in a weighted way. I don't know if you have any question until here, or if there is any question on the chat. If not, we can move forward to the next level of the analysis. Because once we have mapped the blue economy, the next step is to understand its broader economic impact. So we move from mapping to measuring the impact. For that, we follow the input-output analysis designed by the Nobel Prize in Economic Vasily Leontiev, who state that the input-output analysis shows how the industries are interrelated and how the output of one industry is an input to another. And this is what we need to understand in MSP impacts. When we are talking about maritime transport, we have to bear in mind that all the aspects that are affecting maritime transport can or are affecting other sectors. We are seeing, unfortunately, these effects due to the current conditions. In the case of REMAP, and based on a participatory approach of the project, we look to accommodate more sectors than those that we gather information, or more than those are included in the plan. In particularly, stakeholders express the need to include coastal tourism. By taking in consideration that this activity has also indirect impact and induced impact on the economy. So we use input-output analysis because we have data for it, which is a very relevant point, because it's a proven and effective way to capture both direct and indirect effects due to the demand change across the economy. They provide multipliers, sector by sectors, to analyze the effects in terms of employment, in terms of value added, enable comparisons across countries, and support, therefore, the evidence-based policymaking by identifying sectors and interdependencies. This is, again, I will not put any equation, just a matrix, where you can see here how an input-output table, which is the basis for this type of analysis, looks like. And they are matrices, symmetric matrices, where you can see the destiny and the origin of each of the production for each of the sectors identified. The typical analysis focusing on direct and indirect effects through type 1 multipliers, which estimate the demand shocks related to the sectors. In this case, in the case of REMAP, we apply a mixed model. Just focus the impact on those sectors included on the plan. And the rest of the economy remains ceteris paribus. Nothing changed for them. So we mitigate or try to avoiding then a double accounting of the effects along the whole value chain. And to fully understand the relevance of the blue economy, the relevance of the MSP, we need to go beyond the direct value generation. So we simulate a demand zone affecting the blue economy sectors, but asking ourselves what will happen if in the national economies analysis, the sectors included in the MSP plans were no longer carried out in that current area. so the direct effects of removing these MSP sectors, and quantify the indirect effects on the related sectors and on the household economies through the salaries related to those sectors. In the case of Remap, the availability of information is here represented, and with these brown sectors is those which will have geographical information, not only economic one. If we focus with economic and geographical information, we keep a more share sectors. We focus on fishing and maritime traffic flows to demonstrate the possibility of this method. In the case of the fishing, the social impact distribution is shown through this spatial map in the Baltic region. The employment is clustered in specific coastal communities with stronger concentrations along Denmark coast and southern Baltic. In several northern areas, like Finland and Sweden, fishing employment remains notable despite the lower GVA, reflecting small-scale, labor-intensive fisheries. In the central and eastern Baltic, there are so limited fishing-related employment, consistent with the lower fleet density. In terms of maritime transport, the highest GVA concentrations is aligned with the main maritime corridors, connecting the North Sea to the Baltic and extending towards Finland, Sweden, Poland, and the rest of Baltic states. The major port clusters stand out as key nodes of economic value creation. In contrast of the previous sector of fishing, the economic impact of maritime transport is more diffuse and transboundary, spreading along shipping lanes rather than being limited to coastal communities. If we analyze the wider impact, in terms of GVA across Baltic countries, it becomes immediately clear that maritime transport plays a dominant role in most of the countries, particularly in those with a strong port infrastructure and logistic hubs. Fishing and aquaculture, while socially relevant in specific coastal areas, represent a comparatively smaller share of the total blue GVA at national level. The tourism-related sector, including accommodation, food services, travel agencies, show significant weight in several countries, highlighting the growing importance of coastal tourism, the blue economy, and also the maritime spatial planning. So in this slide, remind us that the blue economy is not homogeneous. Its structure varies significantly between countries, reflecting different development models, infrastructure capacity, and economic specialization. Here, we can see the overall results expressed relative to the size of each national economy. The chart shows the contribution of the blue economy to GDP in each of the countries for the sectors analyzed, fishing and maritime transport. The light orange segment shows the indirect effects, meaning the additional value created through supply chains and intersectoral linkage. What is particularly interesting, not only to the absolute size, but the relative weight within each economy. In some countries, the blue economy represents a significant structural component of the GDP, while in other, the role is more limited. Here we have the same analysis, but in employment terms. The dark blue represent direct jobs, while the light blue is the indirect employment effects across the wider economy. And I want to play, and I'm sure that all of you wants to play with these results, with the tools that we developed. So I will show you two examples, and then I give you the link to the tool, and then you can enter and play with the results and tell us what they, if they are useful or not for you.
That's
Here
it.
you can, yes, please, Andres.
Sorry. Maybe before we go to the tool, there are a question on the chat.
Oh, yes, sure.
So Marik Halberg is putting the question regarding the value, such as GVA, eventually distribution. Does it take account the different type of maritime transport, as tankers, passengers transport, what you've been explaining?
Okay, we aggregate all of the transport data in one, but the analysis can be developed according to the different subgroups of shipping or maritime transport. But passengers is usually included in coastal tourism, not in maritime transport. But the methods and the steps are the same.
Okay, I can just explain what
Yes, please.
I always thought about the maritime transports or not the fisheries, not it's diverse activities and not homogeneous in values, such as lower density activity could have a higher value target species. It could be a difference in values, both in the maritime shipping transport activity and the fishery. That was just a question if you're taking that in account. But I understood it's no, not. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. In fact, we assume this by relating in the case of fishing the fishing efforts. So we assuming that where the fishing areas where the fishing effort is more high in some area, we assume that this area are getting more value. So probably fishing more valuable species. And this is how finally on the maps is represented. In the case of maritime transport, that they are moving the charge along the seas, this volume is allocated linearly across the map.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I don't know if there is any other. Please, Daniel.
Yeah, hi, Jose. I have a question. You showed these indirect employment impacts. How are they considered? I mean, how are they taken into consideration into the analysis? In this case, and one thing that comes up to me, and probably I think it's beyond the data that is available to do this kind of socioeconomic assessment, is actually also to look at the value chains of these sectors, because the value chains actually are then spatially also disaligned, let's say, with many of these methods. Saying that you may have a coastal area with a NUTS region or whatever that has the viable socioeconomic data, but then the value chain, they could be completely displaced. They could be, for instance, instead of in Spain, the value chain of some aspects of, I say, energy, but could be transport and then whatever, could be located in France, let's say, like that. Yeah. If you could comment on this two aspects.
Yeah. I think that I get your question because I lose sometimes the sound, but I think that I get the question. Yes, you are completely right. So that's we go for this type of analysis for the indirect. First, we work at national level due to the plans are national, and through the input-output tables, we are able to distinguish between a national economy and international trade, knowing the effects of import and export. And you mentioned the value chain. The one of the key point of this type of analysis, and this is what we get with the multiplier effects, is to measure this value chain. We consider all those sectors that are related to the sector that we are analyzing. For instance, in the case of fishing, we consider all those sectors that fishing needs to develop to carry out their activity. That means fuel, fishing gears, I don't know, transport, all that they need to prepare the fish vessel to go to fish. And also those sectors that are related to the output of the fishing. For instance, the canning, the processing sector, the restaurants, etc. That has relations with this. With this double approach, we are able to analyze this along the whole value chain. The idea or the assumption that we get is that this multiplier effect is fixed. That means for fishing sector, we have these multiplier effects. And probably we should consider the different specificities, maybe for tuna vessels than for small scales, but it's more complicated. So it's a macroeconomic tool which works well at macroeconomic level. That's the point. And then we estimate these effects.
Okay. I think we have more questions in the chat, but I believe that there is interesting that we go within the presentation of the tool, because actually one question is go with that. And then we can continue with the session of the question and answer.
Okay.
Great.
Okay. Let's see. This is the tool where we can chart different base maps, and then some transversal information. Here you are seeing cargo and tanker data, just for cargo or just for tanker data. And then you can see the how we distribute this value in terms of GVA or in terms of employment. As you mentioned, distributing or allocating these values along the whole transport routes. There you can see in each of the points the value allocated. And this is relevant when you put the other or the different activities included on the plans, because you can see, for instance, the value for the well, it's more or less working. You can see here, play with transparency, and then identify the different activities. If you go directly through the maritime traffic flows, for instance, Oop. Okay, okay. You can see how the value is allocated or distributed on the sea. If we go for fishing, here I have checked the fishing activity. As you mentioned, is not equally allocated like maritime transport. You can see more efforts in some areas according to the resources available, the fishing resources. And there you can upload the value for those areas in terms of GVA and in terms of employment. Then you can put not only the fishing activity included on the plans, but also maybe other activities that could be relevant for planification. For instance, conservation, and to check how the intensity of the activity is developed in those areas. This is a visualization tools. Has not many of the developments are run on the models in our computer, and we just upload on this visualization tool. And this is the tool that we developed. In the case of the fishing, this is distribute at C². In terms of GVA, is distribute according to the 1 kilometer square. And this is the promise linked to the tool. If you want to check it, analyze the results that we get. Another relevant information that I mentioned and you take is the indirect and induced effects. When you click directly on the countries analyzed, which are the more orange countries, you get the results of this input-output analysis. These results are not spatialized because it will be very complex to see how this economic impact is distributed among the 74 economic sectors that usually compose each of the input-output tables. However, if you click in each of the countries, you will find some information related to the current GVA, how the activities analyzed represent, or how much the activities analyzed represents in terms of GDP, in terms of employment, and also what are those sectors which are not MSP or directly linked to the blue economy, which are impacted by avoiding or restricting these activities. In the case of Lithuania, for instance, is the rent and leasing services, retail trades, wholesale trade services, wholesale and retail trade of motor vehicles, and legal and accounting services. And you can see this country by country, checking the different information that I mentioned before. And this is now this is the tool. So thank you so much, and please, the floor is yours to any question, any comment that you may have.
Thank you, Jose. This was quite complete because you started with the methodology and then you're showing the tool. Maybe you can provide the link, because the link that you included.
Yeah.
Okay. So there are questions on the chat. Let's start with the chat. There is a question from how to deal with emerging industries, such as this is extraction industries, if I am not wrong, which normally don't have time series data for specific locations and separate sectors in IO tables as well.
Very good question, of course, and this is a problem or a challenge, let's say, not only for measuring MSP in socioeconomic terms, but also the blue economy. Because without data, we cannot estimate nothing, of course. But for emerging sectors, they should have to be included in the plans. Let's say, for instance, offshore renewable energy. They have specific allocations areas, and then we can start to include this geographical information. For economic information, for an activity which is not already developed, you can use some proxies. You can use proxies for inland activities, and then assuming that this is the same on the sea, or gather information from surveys to estimate what will be the value of production and the intermediate consumption, the cost and expenditures needed for that. And this will come from the different reports and environmental assessment or socioeconomic assessment linked, which are already linked to the planning of maritime uses. So the method is still valid for these activities.
Okay, great. Thanks. Okay, thanks for putting the link for the tool. Also, I included the link for socioeconomic tool within the remap. So probably they are leading to the same thing, same place. There is another question on the chat. Congrats for the tool. Related to the gross value added of the blue economy, the wide disparity in results across Spanish regions suggests that there is no harmonized methodology for this indicator. Moreover, the entities responsible for analyzing these metrics operate at the regional level, and there do not seem to be shared or coordinated criteria. Considering that, within the smart specialization strategies S3s, all regions identified the blue economy as a strategic sector, the following questions arise. Are there no EU established methodological criteria for measuring this indicator in harmonized way? Yeah,
Well, in a more conceptual way, the GVA concept is agreed at EU level through Eurostat, where all the national and regional statistic institutes participate, and at worldwide level, this is managed by World Bank, and well, the concept is again agreed. Then is the operationalization of the concept, and then you're right that sometimes there are some differences or discrepancies to harmonize that. However, it's the data that we have. So in methodological terms, this will works in terms of trust of the data that we are managing. Of course, we have to do so. In any case, the worked with GVA. Personally, I think that is worth worthy than works with production value, because we are not only considering the potential value that we can extract for one area, but also we are considering the cost and the expenditures required to gather this value. And also this give us the opportunity to use other type of analytical tools like input-output to relate these results to the GDP, which is something, a variable that is easy to understand for everybody. Of course, this is something that we can discuss and argue, and there are a lot of literature and discussions about this. But bear in mind how I start the presentation. No many efforts, no many tools on this topic. Of course, this can be improved with more data, more approaches, but we are not now starting from the scratch.
This is why we selected to open this webinar series with this tool.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I don't see any more questions anymore. What you said, what was discussed, what was questioned today and discussed by you could be also follow-up discussed in the technical expert group, in the socioeconomic subgroup. This is a good topic to follow on. And as we don't have any more questions, we can close it and wrap it up. Thank you a lot, Jose. Thank you a lot, Oriol Munoz, Yolanda Irwan, for supporting us in organization of this webinar. And I would like to just say that for the next month, we have a governance tool, also something very rare within the data and the application with the Maritime Spatial Planning, which will be led with Marta Ballesteros. And the next, and in the May, we have more specific tool, which actually analyze the European MSP data layer, which is on the MLNet. So for both webinars, you can actually, you can register on the European MSP platform. And yeah, this is it. Thank you a lot. Bye.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye.